You are tuned in to a fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome to a fireside chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, my guest is ANN ELLER. Ann is the author of Dragon in the Sky, Prophecy from the Stars. In her groundbreaking book, she talks candidly from the heart about her working relationship with Dr. J. Allen Hyneck, the father of UFO alien research. Through the book and via lectures and tours around the world, Ann shares her extraordinary experiences with alien visitors and her message from the stars. It's an urgent appeal to us all towards higher consciousness and UFO disclosure. She also presents an astonishingly lucid take on the secret government, what it's up to, and their various plans for us. As the book states, we are multidimensional beings on the cusp of leaping into our next into our next evolutionary phase, Homo luminous. She shares her awareness of the coming Earth changes, a possible pole shift, and the collapse of the old, negative, and controlling paradigms. Presently, she is traveling around the globe, presenting a vast panorama of information and slides which helps to bring us closer to our destiny. So, let's welcome Ann to the show now. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Well, I'm good, Lance. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you know, when I saw your YouTube video on the internet, I fell in love with you. And when I read your book, I knew I'd made the right choice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Well, it's a wonderful book, and it resonates so highly because it's just full of spiritual information and a lot of experiences that are out of the box that are very similar to some I've had. And I'm so glad that we didn't get raptured today, or we would have had to play a rerun.
Yes, we're still here, darn it.
Yeah, I know.
I was sort of hoping we'd get raptured and we could just forget the rest of this stuff, but
yeah,
unfortunately, I guess we're here to stay.
We're here until the finish line, till everybody gets it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, for the listeners who aren't familiar with you, maybe you could give a brief account on how you got involved with Dr. Hyneck, UFOlogy, and the ETs and the higher dimensionals.
Sure. Well, it started back in about 1976. I started having UFO alien dreams, and I had them practically every night for 4 years. And it made me a little bit crazy. I started reading everything I could get my hands on, talking to anybody who would talk to me, and everything I picked up had one name in it, and that was Dr. J. Allen Hyneck. He was the astrophysicist that was hired by the government and the military to debunk all of these UFO sightings that people were reporting. And I thought, well, if anybody on the planet would know what was going on, I didn't know he was supposed to be debunking all this stuff at that point. And I thought he would know, he would have the answers. So I wrote to him and told him just a little bit about what was going on, and I didn't hear anything from him for 9 months. And then all of a sudden, one night, the phone rang, and it was him, and he said, I've just found your letter behind my desk on the floor. And after I got to know him, that was sort of typical. He was a little bit of an absent-minded professor and didn't keep a very neat office. So he wanted to know about the dreams, and I told him a little bit about them, and he asked me to send him a log, which I did, and I asked for his impression. He wanted the log to send off to a colleague of his in Sweden or Switzerland, I can't remember now, who was doing a research project on these dreams because people were having them all over the world. and they were trying to get to the bottom of this. You know, they were trying to find out what the aliens were doing with the subconscious mind. So then I never heard another word from him, and 5 years later, now this is 1985, I came home. I'm a nurse, and I was working nights at the hospital. And I came home early one morning and opened up the Arizona Republic, and headlines on the second page was Dr. J. Allen Hyneck brings UFO research to Scottsdale, Arizona. Well, I couldn't believe it because it was almost in my backyard. It was literally about 5 minutes from where I lived. So I knew I had to be involved, and I went over one day, and he wasn't there, and the two people that he worked with weren't there, but there were other people just milling around that had come from other states just to meet him and tell him about their experiences. So I left a note on the desk and said I had to be involved. I didn't care whether I took out the garbage or fed the cat or what, but I just had to be involved. So I would volunteer my time for whatever they needed. And so Brian called then a couple days later and said, sure, come on over. So I set up the office there, which was the main research area where people would come in and where they would call in and leave the reports of sightings, etc. And then it was about 2 or 3 weeks later before I met Dr. Hyneck. He was having his office over in his home, which was about a couple of miles further from there. And I met him, and I guess it was probably about a week later, he called and asked me if I'd be willing to go to work for him full time and set up his office. And he said, I can't pay you much. I can only pay you $100 a week. Well, you know, money's always a problem, but I figured it was just a one chance in a lifetime. So I jumped at it and quit my job at the hospital. I was renting my condo from my mother, so she agreed to give me free rent for 6 months. So I was able to do it, and what an experience it was. It's just it'll probably take about a week to tell you everything that transpired, if I could remember it.
Right. Well, I imagine that was quite a tornado of activity as things continued to heat up about the ETs. What was your first major validation and revelation that you felt really told you that these things were real and that there were other realities penetrating our own?
Well, before I went to work for him, while I was having these dreams, it really became a reality for me. I was experiencing so many things in the dreams that were so real, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and the place would be lit up. There would just be this bright light in the room, and then it would just instantly go off. And then I'd hear a swishing outside. So I eventually knew that I was being picked up and I was being given these experiences. It was just terrific. And the dreams were about all different kinds of craft and aliens, different cultures, different dimensions, hidden bases. In one of the dreams, there were 2 alien doctors that had opened my skull, and they were doing this operation for the purpose of changing my tapes. And they were very surprised when they got in and found out that my tapes were permanent and couldn't be changed. So obviously I had some kind of a destiny to live through. I had some kind of and I believe had a mission, and I believe that this is the mission. It's kind of interesting because under hypnosis, I went to a past life where Dr. Hyneck and I were doing the same thing. You know, we really do repeat history. He was an astronomer. I was his assistant. He had a telescope. He could see spacecraft, and he showed them to me, but he made me promise I wouldn't speak to anybody about it. And he never spoke to anyone about it, so it was just this secret. And the same thing was happening in this life. So now I'm just blabbing as much as I can. I'm getting it all out there. I want to tell everybody everything I know or think I know.
Wonderful. Well, that's why you're on the show tonight, because I agree with you. I think this wall of secrecy and silence and disinformation and lies and cover-ups and so on and so forth by the shadow or secret government has to come to an end. In fact, you write in detail about that and what their plans for us are, and there have been various ET government agreements. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think the biggest agreement is the one with President Dwight Eisenhower, when he met with two groups of aliens, and this was back in 1954. And the first group were the Nordics. They were the really tall, good-looking, blonde aliens, very spiritual, and he met with them at the Muroc Test Center, and that now is Edwards Air Force Base. They said, they told him that they would help us with our spiritual development, and they refused to share their technology with us because they said we weren't mature enough to use it for the benefit of mankind, and they got that right. And they demanded that we dismantle our nuclear weapons, and they stated that we were on a path of self-destruction. Excuse me. Well, Eisenhower, was a military strategist, and he didn't think that was much of a bargain. So he said no, thank you. And he then met with the second group in the same year, 1954, Grays from Zeta Reticuli, and he met with them at Holloman Air Force Base. He entered into a treaty with them, and the treaty basically said that they would agree to share their technology with us if they kept the alien presence on Earth a secret. So right there we have the beginning of the cover-up. And we agreed to let them pick up humans. You might say abduct, but I think that's a little strong. These are experiencers. These aren't abductions, as far as I'm concerned. And for the purpose of medical exams, monitoring, and their hybrid breeding program. They had a program. They were given permission by the higher council to do this, because what they were trying to do was breed out our warlike tendencies. Now, don't you think that's a good idea?
Well, absolutely, unless you end up tampering with the emotional body and end up without the ability to feel.
Yes, I agree with you. But what they were able to do was breed out blind rage, which was great. And the other thing was intestinal gas. I thought that was pretty great. But these beings have greater intelligence. They're much more sensitive. They have a longer lifespan and much less illness. They're going to live a lot longer than we do, and I think they're going to be a lot happier in their lives. But at any rate, he agreed, and there was to be no harm to come to anyone, and they were to wipe our memories clean. We weren't supposed to remember any of this. And then on a periodic basis, they were supposed to furnish MJ-12, which was that secret government, the secret staff or the secret committee. They were to furnish them with the names of all of the contacts on a regular basis. Now, we were wondering, how did the military know who was being picked up? Well, here it is right here. They were being given a list every so often. And so, the men in black and the black helicopters and on and on and on could find these people and could check on them. So our president, now we have President Eisenhower to thank for that, but he was operating under orders, because it's always been the secret government, the hidden government that's running the show. And this consists of about 13 very wealthy families. A lot of the royalty from